So what does it take to be unstoppable in business or in franchising? Well, we're going to discover that today.
Welcome to Fordify Live with your host, Ford Saeks.
And today's guest is Gary Prenevost. Gary, thank you. You're the author of The Unstoppable Franchisee. We've known each other for a while. We're both in the franchise space. Tell the listeners today a little bit about your background and why you wrote the book, The Unstoppable Franchisee, and how that really relates to anybody in business.
Well, thank you, Ford. It's great to be here with you today. I've been in the franchise industry for over 30 years on every side of the franchise table. I had over 100 franchisees in one iteration, sales management, leadership training, was a business coach. Divested of that and bought my FranNet franchise, which I still have today, which is a multi-unit franchise, helping people buy franchise. And I've worked with over 2,000 people in that journey of becoming franchisees. And also with iFranchise Group, first I help companies become franchisors. So I've lived the life on both sides, and I understand what one of the big frustrations of franchisors is that most franchisees don't follow enough of the system or don't execute it well enough. And I wrote the book because I saw this opportunity for franchisees and business owners to do so much more with their business than they are.
Well, it's so interesting because you and I, whenever we speak at a franchise convention or anything, the biggest challenge in franchising is the franchisors want the franchisees to follow their system, and the franchisees want the phone to ring or orders to come in or customers to come flooding into their business. So we know that that's the dynamic, and it goes much more than just the system. And so if you're watching us today, we're live right now on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And this is also the Business Growth Show podcast. And our guest today is Gary Prenevost. It's spelled differently, so I'm going to spell it for those listening. It's Gary, Prenevost. The T is silent. And the website is theunstoppablefranchisee.com, theunstoppablefranchisee.com. Okay, so Gary, let's continue the conversation with, it's beyond just the system. What are some of the things that you've identified with your history, and how does what's happening in the economy, what can multi-unit owners, single, whether they're new or experienced, what can franchisees do to break through that stigma to be unstoppable?
Well, there's in the book there's 7 drivers forward. With the first one being mindset and growth mindset. It's so important to have the right frame of mind as they approach what's coming. Business owners today have to be resilient. They have to be tough-minded, that grit, and they also have to be ready for what's coming. So having the mindset that's healthy and keep them focused on the right things. But that's not enough. Mindset is kind of the foundation. The next level, the next driver is building awareness, and where mindset it impacts all other drivers in all aspects of the business. Awareness informs all other areas of the business. So helping people stop and assess where they are, where their business is, where their current market is, what are the global forces that are affecting them? Because one of the things you say is business owners their business will only grow as fast as they can.
That's right.
Well, sometimes the business is very healthy, but it's hit that ceiling because the owner isn't growing anymore. If we come back to the franchise system, they've reached a level of performance in the system where they're doing well, but they're not taking advantage of more things in the system. They're not accessing that collective brain trust, so they're stuck. So when awareness helps people look at where are they at, what are their drivers, their strengths, their gaps, and then what are the resources they can bring to bear. And then it goes, the book talks about different elements about, is it operational skills that they have to grow? Is it their people, developing their people? I see so many franchisees, you've probably seen it as well, where they treat their employees as a resource to be consumed. Well, the top performers that I interviewed in my book, and I interviewed the top 4% of over 20 different brands, their top franchisees, they treat their employees as their most important repeat customer more important than their paying customers. That's a really interesting mindset, and a shift of looking at how to look after the people who look after their customers. And, so I think that's an element of where they at that they need to look at. And then what are the things that they look at for measuring performance, key performance indicators? That there's a lot of different areas in the book that help people look at where are they at. And it's not just written for an information book for it. It's got a workbook. It's people assess where they are, so they can then you go and prioritize what is the first thing that they have to do, and then the next thing and the next thing.
Well, let's stop there for a second. Go ahead, keep going. I want you to finish your thought.
Unstoppable is not a one-time thing. It's as I achieve and master one area, what's the next area I can grow, and then the next area. It's about continual learning and continual growth.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, on my website at profitresults.com, in my demo video, I even say, success in business comes down to one of three things. It's mindset, strategy, and tactics. If you don't have the mindset, the strategies and tactics in the world won't happen. Same with a franchise brand. If they haven't created a culture and the communication and the type of family of franchise communication relationships to where the franchisees can work on the challenge. Every business is going to have a challenge, but it has to do with their perspective. So let's go back to mindset. What are some ways, or what are some things in that first pillar of the 7 in your book for mindset? What are some of the things that you talk about? I have a list that I talk about, but I'm curious to know what are some of the most important things that you could share with our listeners and our viewers today on mindset. So if they're sitting here and maybe they're frustrated, they're looking at payroll, they have staffing challenges, they're trying to get more business, how do they stay focused and be motivated and inspired to be successful?
The first thing I would say is that understanding the difference between fixed mindset and growth mindset. Fixed mindset, there's traps. I'm not good enough, or the things we say to ourselves. So understanding the dialogue we use to inform ourselves and keep us focused on the growth or the learning opportunity. It's not that we're facing a challenge or an opportunity. It's what's the lesson in it. So being aware of how our positive self-talk, how our beliefs reinforce our actions, and how that loop continues. And if we don't change how we look at things, our expectations for it, we're going to get the same results all the time. So we've got to find the right interrupt pattern to start changing the behaviors, coming back to the beliefs. What are the goals? What am I capable of? If we think we're not capable, we're right.
Yeah,
we are capable. It's how do we learn?
Self-talk is so key. I mean, I was working with one of my mastermind partners the other day, and he was a little frustrated. Some things that were going on in his life. He's got some health challenges that he just was aware of, and so he started out the conversation, and he just said, "I'm depressed." And so I let him talk for a few minutes, and not wanting to coach, but it's a mastermind. So when you're in a mastermind, you call it tight. You call people on their crap. You're there to be a critical thinker, right? You want to be an open-minded. And so I told him, I said, look, are you depressed, or you're having a depressed moment? I mean, can you maybe rechange the language of the voice in your head a little bit to you're having a moment instead of your persona? So if it's I'm depressed, then it's the persona. I mean, it's so interesting. We'll shift this into the business mode. I mean, as a business growth accelerator myself and working with companies, I find the opportunities that they don't see in front of them. I'm brought in to help them increase their influence, to get more subscribers and awareness, to get more leads and sales, and then to improve operations, whether it's through AI or innovation or just following their systems, whether they're a franchisee or franchisor, or whether it's a regular business owner. Because when I speak at the conferences, the franchisor becomes a client because they want me to help them get more franchisees. Because at the end of the day, marketing is communication, and communication is the response it elicits. So it's not about tricking or hyper or anything like that. So staying on the mindset piece, I think the growth mindset, and really to echo on what you're saying, it comes down to listening to what you say in your head. And if you're saying absolute things that don't allow you to see the opportunities in front of you. And that's a big piece. I mean, every keynote presentation I give, every consultation I give, I always make sure that the mindset's on there, because if they're not coachable, it's not going to matter. I mean, it's like I can read your book and I can go through the 7 pillars, but if I'm not even motivated to say, maybe there's a way I could do things better. And it's not about agreeing. Like our book, I mean, I've got a book, I promote called, Accelerate, the Ultimate Guide for Franchisees to Maximize Local Marketing and Boost Sales. There's my shameless plug for my book. I don't have a copy of yours right in front of me, or I'd bring your book up on the screen, but it's available on Amazon, everybody. TheUnstoppableFranchisee.com. Go ahead. You can bring the book up and I'll let you show it. And so there it is, everybody. The Unstoppable Franchisee, the 7 drivers of next level growth. So thanks, Gary. So we know that mindset's important. We know that it's not something you did, it's something you do. I mean, I listen to audios on the way to work. I listen to motivational YouTube things. I listen to meditation before I go to sleep. I'm constantly feeding myself with different information to think critically, not just to, drink the Kool-Aid or whatever, or follow what everybody says. But I want to be able to make sure that through the day in business, we all get down. There's things that happen. A customer might be upset, or an employee didn't do something the right way, or maybe I wasn't communicating or leading. My biggest challenge is giving people enough clear instructions, Gary, because I'm a delegator, right? I'm a driver, so I'll delegate without details, and then I'll get a problem because I delegated, but I didn't really give clear details, and then they missed the target, and then I'm like, hey, what the heck happened? You missed the target, and so mindset's number 1. And let's go into the next pillar.
Before you do, there's something to me. There's another element of mindset, and it ties to your principles, the vision, mission, the tactics, and then the execution. Those are the 3 components to bridging the gap. Well, I think part of the anchor in mindset is being aligned and being aware of your vision, mission. What is your why? And staying connected to that why. And when you think about the franchise business model, Ford, when somebody buys a franchise, the franchisor has created the vision mission overall, and the franchisee buys into and aligns with that vision mission for themselves. The tactics, the franchisor, their process is the tactics that the franchisees are buying into so they follow. But it all comes down to the franchisees responsible for execution. So it's not the franchisor's job to bring the franchisee customers. That's one of the big myths.
Right. That's the problem, right? They think that.
It's the franchisor's job to bring business systems, which marketing and business generation is one part of, but the franchisee has to execute. So it comes back to that bridging the mindset to next is what are the skills, what are the areas, how they do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's the national voice for the brand, but then there's a local voice, and in every organization, every franchise group, and if you grew your franchise to 100 is like that magic number. If you got to 100, there's like next level growth, because it's getting to that 100 mark seems to be in my 3 decades in franchising. That's what I've learned. If they get to 100, now I've worked with organizations that have 45,000 franchises and around the globe, so there's a big difference. But it always comes down to the execution, because I mystery shop before I speak, and I always ask them, what are the top 3 challenges you're facing? And it's interesting because I will interview one franchisee, maybe even in the same city, and they're like, oh, I've got more business than I can handle. I have staffing problems because I've got more jobs than I can produce, or I've got more business than I can handle. And then you've got the other types of franchisees that are like, well, there's just no business out here, and and they're focusing on the wrong things. And I believe that if you have a belief that isn't serving you, it's time to get some new beliefs. And if the belief is, hey, I bought into this franchise, why aren't there more customers, or why aren't they doing more national advertising? But they're not working in their local community, they're not networking, they're not training, they're not creating a culture, they're not creating opportunities and talking about, we know that a lot of franchisees, when they first get hire staff, they're on the lower end sometimes. It depends on what the job is. It might be their first job, and they're not talking to the staff about the opportunities and the leadership and the skills they're going to learn on top of just the pay. So pay is one thing, but it's also those other things. So, mindset for sure. If you're listening to this, my action step would be get the book Unstoppable Franchisee, get my book Accelerate. You should have it as part of your success library. go on YouTube. You can watch our videos and you can learn more about what we do. And there's other experts that, certainly qualified expert. I mean, the book, Carol Dweck's book on mindset, the whole book is written about growth mindset. Now, she didn't invent that, everybody, so we're not plagiarizing her content. A fixed mindset and a growth mindset has been along since humans came along. So it's important to just look at and make sure that mindset is a key area. Let's go on to the second pillar, and what is it, and what can we do to improve it?
Well, it's growing your awareness, and I love survival, outdoor survival, and the Survivor Man series, and that zones of assessment in a dangerous situation when you're out in the woods. I actually had a Survivor Man moment where I was backcountry and injured myself. So I started thinking about that for the business. And there's four in the book. There's 4 awareness zones: the self, which is the internal self-talk. That's our own private space, and just becoming aware of what is our growth mindset or other elements. Then there's the internal, so internal self, internal business is what the owner and the staff see, but the customers don't. And this is relationships. This is what is the environment that the staff are coming to? Does it respect them, or does it tell them they don't matter? What is the relationship with the franchisor? How does that's something that's part of that internal side. And it just kind of sets, where am I at right now, and looking at where can I improve. And I think the most important one obviously is the internal, but the next most important one, Ford, is the immediate market, because this is where the growth opportunities are.
Yes.
And it's, what are they doing? So how are they serving their customers? Who are the customers they should be going after, but they're not? How come they're losing customers? Whatever it is, it's taking a snapshot of what's really going on in their marketplace, and also understanding the global forces that are coming. We had the pandemic. We have generative AI now being other tech disruptions. Let's face it, buying a business, buying a franchise, it's a 10, 15, 20-year strategy. It's not a 1 or 2 year strategy. We have to be resilient.
Yeah, I've been the stage. Go ahead. Keep going with resiliency. And real quick, for the listeners out here, this isn't scripted, everybody. We're having a conversation. This is about, if you just joined us, this is Ford and Gary. We're talking about success in business. You don't have to be in franchising, but a lot of our listeners are in that industry. But it's any business. If you're an entrepreneur or a new entrepreneur or not. Now, before we go forward, what kind of dog do you have?
That's a Bernedoodle mini, and my doorbell just rang.
No problem. It's fine. I took my dog to daycare today. I have a Labradoodle, and normally it would be on the couch behind me, sleeping. So it's fine, everybody. We're live. This is the way it is. So let's go back to what you were saying before I interrupted you. Yeah, go ahead. So what we're talking about, everybody, is, what does it take to be successful in business? Right now, in business, people are good at one of 3 things. They're either good at making or delivering the product or service, which obviously, if you're in business, you should be good at that. Number 2, they're good at operations. That means they understand the leadership, the finance, and the operational side, the management, the culture, team building. They're in the second bucket. Or number 3, they're good at marketing and sales. So in business, you need to take that personal inventory of which of those 3 are you really strong at. And no one is strong in all 3. Now, me as a business owner, I'm the innovative entrepreneur in marketing. So I am the marketing and sales bucket, and then the delivering the product or service bucket. So when it comes to leadership, I've got to rely on experts like Gary and other people that have been on Fordify Live to be able to do that. Okay, so let's continue the conversation back to awareness. They have to be aware. They have to look at their situational awareness. Obviously, it's how they approach it with the open mind. But there's always more opportunities. There's always outside forces. We can't control government regulations, compliance, legal issues, immigration. There's all kinds of external forces, but there's always opportunities in those. Just like with generative AI, I'm speaking a lot on artificial intelligence and ChatGPT for business, because people are confused. They know what it is, but they're treating it like Google, and they don't really know how to leverage it. And so now I'm going in, and actually that's what I'm speaking at this weekend in DC. Working with hundreds of franchise owners, franchisees, who in the hospitality industry, because they're trying to figure out how to use it. And what I had to share with them is they can use it to answer Google reviews and to standard operating procedures and to take their content and make it multilingual. And something for you before we go on to the pillar number 3, and we won't be able to get through all 7, but going on to number 3, just got a booking hold that just came through. So I got a little confused there. It popped up on my screen. So that's a cool thing. I'll look at that when I get off the call today. So what I want you to talk about now, I shifted on a brain fart. So we'll just move right into pillar number 3.
Well, pillar number 3 is grow your operational management skills. And it comes back to what you just said a couple of minutes ago, Ford. Nobody's good at everything.
Yeah.
So I think if we take a step back and understand growth, because each of the drivers is growing something. So growth, in order to grow, we have to give up something to get something new. So we have to give up time. We have to sacrifice. It's growth isn't a sharp Steve up. It's an S curve. We go down first. When we start learning something, we become not good at something that we haven't done before. We're giving up something we're good at or part of something we're good at to learn. And so we go down a valley and then we start going up that valley. And then as we grow that, we get to the top of the S curve and we're rocking.
Right.
But you're rocking in business when it's you and a couple of people, and now management skills. Well, I can't get to the business to the next level because I don't know how to lead, or I don't know how to run my supply chain, or whatever those little gaps are. And each owner is different because they're going to execute differently. A good franchisor will help them to identify those and bring those resources together. But sometimes people aren't ready to listen to the franchisor. So, the operational skills, it's, again, the book sets the foundation for here's where the elements are, and then where are you at on your strengths, on your gaps. There's assessment exercises and review exercises that they can figure it out.
Yeah, the main thing is just being proactive. So as we get towards the end of today's episode, we've been talking to Gary Prenevost. He's the author of The Unstoppable Franchisee. You can get it on Amazon or go to theunstoppablefranchisee.com. Now, this is a great book, even if you're not in franchising, because it's just like me. The book I wrote on Accelerate, guess what? Any business can reference it. The only difference in the book is I reference the fact that they need to follow their systems. I mean, I want it to be in alignment. I want it to be a book just like your book that a franchisor can buy and give to all their new franchisees or use at a conference for a book signing. So it's relevant, but it's still marketing. I mean, in business, at the end of the day, even if you have a franchise brand, you're responsible for getting leads, getting sales, and building a culture. And the challenge in organizations today is when an entrepreneur has to wear many, many hats, they don't always have the skill sets. And that's why it's so important to subscribe to this podcast, like and share it. If you're watching this on the replay on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, go to Gary's channel, subscribe to him, look at what he's doing, leave a review on Amazon and all the different things, because it helps let other people know that it's there. But it's really about creating that success library. And so, certainly you should get Accelerate. You should get The Unstoppable Franchisee if you're in business. There are 2 books that are great books that you don't have to, you can read them cover to cover, but you can also just open right up to the table of contents and jump to the chapter that's most relevant for you. So before we go into the closing, we do go live on Fordify Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Central on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. So wrap it up and give some wisdom nuggets, golden nuggets, whatever you think you want to share, to leave our listeners and viewers today with some action steps. What can they do other than get the book? Of course, we've said that. What else can they do today to really make a profound impact, not just from the strategy standpoint, but tactically?
Well, so from a strategy side of things, I think the biggest surprise of all the research I did for the book was how important the interdependence factor is, which is the 6th driver, the relationship of the franchisees and the franchisor as the collective brain trust. The best franchisees, best in class franchisors, they think of it as a river that the top franchisors are constantly gulping from and managing the flow of information. Whereas underperforming franchisees or average performing franchisees are sipping at that through a shot glass for. They're hardly accessing it. I know better, or I don't have to do what the franchisor says, or any of those elements. So from a strategy, that collective brain trust is open to most franchise systems. It's just accessing, talking to your peer franchisees. Don't be an island. From a tactics is looking at talking to your franchisor or who in your system is doing well in an area that you're not, that might become a mentor or just a resource from that. I think it's really important to look at wherever somebody is, where do they want to get to? What is the gap? And what I think is understated, underemphasized. What is the priority?
Yeah, I think I
get a whole bunch of ideas when they go to a conference. They get all these different ideas from the books. They can only implement one or two things at a time.
Yeah, that's right.
What are the one or two things that they can learn, apply, get to know, and eventually master? And then the next element, this is not a quick journey. This is an ongoing learning journey.
Yeah, I think so too. It's continuing education. It's just like I said, I've said it a few times on this podcast today. It's training isn't something you did, it's something you do. And whatever level of the game you're at, whether you're new or whether you're established or whether you're a multi-unit business owner or whether you're a top producer or a brand, there's always new opportunities, but you've got to be proactive. And that will end this episode. So Gary, I can't wait to have you on another episode and we'll go deeper into the other chapters of the book. Again, Gary Prenevost, you can visit him at theunstoppablefranchisee.com. This is Ford Saeks on Fordify Live. Join us Wednesdays, 11 a.m. Central. And then go, if you're just listening to the podcast, it's the Business Growth Show on your favorite podcast platform. All right, Gary, thanks so much for being here today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Ford.
Thank you for tuning in to Fordify Live. Make sure to like, comment, and share this episode on your favorite social media platform. And don't forget to subscribe to the Business Growth Show podcast, available wherever you get your podcast streaming fix. We air weekly at 11 a.m. Central Time. So until next week, keep pushing the boundaries and never stop growing.